What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at Data and today is December 14th of 2020. Well, folks, I hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you are. And in today's video, we're going to be focusing mainly on the status of the crypto market, as a lot of people are on edge on one end or the other. A lot of people are noticing we're getting closer and closer to that 20K level multiple times as we keep rallying back up to the $19,000 range. And a lot of people as well are on edge that we might be correcting severely lower, going down to 17, 16, 15K sometime in the next few weeks, as we haven't been able to break above that big even level of 20,000. I'm going to provide a decent neutral position here as the estimations of what we can expect. And along with that as well, I just want to emphasize to you all two things. One, I might be a bit low energy today. I've been doing a water fast over the last 3.5 days, going for 6 days in total. So we'll see how that goes. And along with that as well, I just want to mention as well that tomorrow we've got a big announcement coming for Digifox. So if you guys can, please check out tomorrow's video. I have a feeling you won't want to miss it, especially if you're interested in the DeFi space like I am. All right, so let's go ahead and dive straight into it, guys. I've made you wait long enough. Taking a look over the last 24 hours here, as Bitcoin has been slightly down, the vast majority of cryptocurrencies are following suit, most of them barely breaking out of neutral territory, below 2%, down to 3 or 4%, so nothing too severe here. In fact, really taking a look over the last 48 to 72 hours, altcoins have had a really nice rebound across the board. Whether you're talking about DeFi, whether you're talking about enterprise blockchain, oracles, you name it. Any type of space here that's trending, that have got people excited, they've started to trend back upwards and people are starting to buy the dip. But I want to go ahead here and talk about Bitcoin specifically, because I've been finding the two extremes here as we get towards this very big catalyst level of 20K. You either have people who are noticing, Nick, multiple times we're testing up right near this level. In fact, we'd broken to technically all-time highs on a lot of major exchanges here on December 1st, which means we're right around the corner breaking 20K. Let's do a live stream. Nick, you got to get on a live stream. And as much as I love doing the live streams, guys, at the same time, a lot of people are also cautious that multiple times we've tested resistance at this range, that we're going to have some massive sell-off once we break out of this wedge here that we've got here on the chart here, the higher lows and the lower highs. A lot of people think we could be going down even further than this red lines that we have here for support, going down to 15K, closing down on a lot of these gains. And guys, quite frankly, I don't think either estimations, as much as I'm not here to insult anyone's judgment at all about the market, I think it tends to be that what I've learned over the last few years is, whether it's cryptocurrency markets or traditional markets, our estimations for what's going to happen can tend to be skewed towards our biases, and they tend to lead us from a much more neutral, rational view of what can happen in the market. I'm always going to be here to try to provide that view. So let's go ahead and talk about it here. What are kind of two reasonable case scenarios here? Well, I'm going to provide a reasonable bullish case scenario and also a realistic, bullish, but at the same time more bearish scenario, where it would take longer to get above the key level of 20K and really spawn off the next cycle. So let's go ahead and talk about the bullish case scenario, which I have here on the chart. In this case, it would be that we would be building through this green wedge here, where we have the lower highs and higher lows, building into a typical long-term wedge here in price, and then having a coiling moment here where price is going to break through sometime towards the end of December, a couple days before the end of the month and the start of the new year, and eventually getting up here, testing towards those previous all-time highs across most exchanges, getting rejected again, but setting in a significantly higher low, and then as we go into the new year, breaking above that 20K level and making it support. Now, another scenario as well, if we just want to go ahead and remove this from our chart here and get the polyline tool here, it could be that, for example, we come through, we get rejected, right? And then we basically start to break down going into the new year towards this level at 17,600, and then eventually start to leap back up, start to test in higher lows and higher highs, breaking above that 20K level sometime later into January. Now, the reason why both of these are technically really bullish case scenarios is because of the fact that they're obviously not screaming that Bitcoin's going down to 15K. It's not going to collapse. In fact, the worst price range that I'm expecting, if anything, is Bitcoin going to 17K. And that would require here, bear in mind, that Bitcoin just starts to deplete right now. Like, it would expect that we're just going to flash crash down here, maybe break down to slightly below it. But we haven't really seen that. I mean, we've seen these kind of pullbacks here, but they get bought up extremely quick, and in this case, pushed back to an all-time high for Bitcoin. So I would say here again, keep rational that if anything, there's an option that Bitcoin can move sideways and that we're not just set to break 20K any moment, and along with that as well, that we don't have to sell off and lose all these gains. This environment we're living through right now is very different. If we take a look at history here, we understand that the effect of halvings on Bitcoin are one of the most significant, it's one of the most significant events here that can happen for Bitcoin. The years post-halving. We had our halving event back in May of 2020, and I know a lot of people just kind of talk about it as being a non-event. But the important thing to realize is that the halving isn't supposed to have an immediate effect on Bitcoin. It's the day-to-day increase here of considering that we've got a lower supply set that's fixed. A lot of people don't understand this about Bitcoin when they're investing in it, and therefore people can't predict it or price it in. And along with that, you have to have the secondary element, which doesn't come right away, which is the growth of demand. This is with any market, guys. You can, for example, know that there's going to be, for whatever reason it might be, a new gold mine out there on the market that's going to bolster the supply and dilute probably the wealth of gold. But a lot of people don't see it until it hits the actual market, until that mine is starting to produce gold. And vice versa in this case with Bitcoin, as we're having a reduction in supply, we need that growth in demand to actually really supplement long-term growth in price. I've hit on this a lot on the channel. A lot of people, even people like Peter McCormack on Twitter, just tweeted out today the halving event hasn't been priced in. And this is something that I've been trying to champion and kind of shout to the roof over the last year. It isn't priced in until you get that. Actually, it's been more than a year in this case, but I digress. The major point here is that this is something that is true across all markets, even predictable markets like Bitcoin. And until more and more people understand that halving model and try to buy in accordance with those halving events, we're going to have these longer cycles. We're going to have a delayed effect of the halving event. But at the same time, we have something really to look forward to in the sense of the percentage multiples. We're already up 120% from the halving event. But take a look at the previous ones. Even though we have decaying returns, I think that we've got a few other 100% to go here for Bitcoin. And again, if you're keeping in line with our target of 100K by November of 2022, all the way up to possibly 200K, it's not unrealistic for Bitcoin to do something like that. Now, the 200K would be pushing it. Again, that's our overt optimistic level. Our more rational optimistic level is 100K. It's basically a 5x from 20K. So that's not too much percentage gain from where we're at right now. It's very, very realistic. And along with this, well, guys, just keeping in mind here, I know people are on edge about Bitcoin. The overall market, whether it be specifically for altcoins excluding Bitcoin or total market capitalization, it's looking great. We haven't even reached up to the all-time high valuations that we set sometime, I think, around in early January of 2018. We've still got a way to go. And bearing in mind as well as Bitcoin's holding up nicely, don't doubt or don't stop watching what's going on in the Ethereum market. Now, above all here, guys, again, I just want to emphasize altcoins are an important thing to watch here. We've been setting higher lows for ETH since back here in January of 2020. Broadly speaking, it's been outperforming Bitcoin. But I want to go ahead and emphasize why this time is different. Why this time, even though in the previous history we've seen Bitcoin when it tests to this relative range towards the all-time highs, that we see a 35% correction. Well, in reality, we're probably not going to see that this time. And because we've already seen the signs here of people buying in at these higher lows, that's already proving it through price, we have to talk about it on a fundamental basis. So JP Morgan just came out with a report recently talking about Mass Mutuals. This is a big insurance company in Massachusetts that is kind of the secondary company to follow in the footsteps of MicroStrategy, coming out and purchasing a large portion of Bitcoin, millions upon millions of dollars of Bitcoin here that Mass Mutual bought. And talking about the kind of possible $600 billion buy-side pressure that we've actually been talking about for a long time. Again, another thing that's starting to finally get recognized. And that's the potential buy-side pressure of pension fund managers. So if we go down here, I mean, there's a lot of articles that sometimes really lengthy. Again, I love these kind of CoinDesk articles. They're just key bullet points here, right? In this case, this is the key quote here. According to JP Morgan, Bitcoin may find an additional demand of $600 billion in buy-side pressure if pension insurance firms in the US, EU, UK, and Japan allocate 1% of their assets to the top cryptocurrency. Now, I want to be very clear here off the bat. The estimation that I've made in the past here, focusing on this 1% metric, is actually a little bit lower. I differ in the sense of thinking that it's going to be difficult to get Bitcoin, specifically Bitcoin as an asset, in the first place as 1% of anyone's portfolio. But along with that as well, getting it to something like 0.5%, you even have to consider that there might be other cryptocurrencies. But I don't even want to fight on whether or not it would be a $300 billion or $600 billion buy-side pressure. No one knows that. And to figure out, maybe in certain countries there might be more allocation or not, there's so many questions towards getting that official figure. No one can predict the exact amount. But even if we take that range of $300 billion to $600 billion of pension fund buy-side pressure, which right now, if you want to equate that number here, if you're talking about 1%, what they're basically saying is pension funds as a market are around $60 trillion right now. We talked about it back in 2017 and 2018 when it was around 35 to 40 trillion. So global wealth has grown a lot here, and as equities are overinflated, as bonds are overinflated, as they're now starting to charter into negative yields and are starting to penalize those holders, a lot of people are looking for an alternative market, something that's not correlated with the broader markets or any specific government or central bank. Well, there's your asset. If the signs here, I always compare, for example, to people, if you take a look at the user growth of Coinbase versus an app like Robinhood, you'll actually find here that Coinbase has overwhelmingly outperformed the user growth of an app like Robinhood. And Robinhood gets championed all the time. I think Robinhood's a great app. But the thing is that people overwhelmingly care about crypto as a market. The growing new age, millennials and Gen Z care much more about crypto than they do about gold, silver, or equities. It's facts, guys. It's the clear reality of where we're living in right now. And that's where people are starting to position themselves. That's why MassMutual, MicroStrategy, all these companies are picking up large sums of it. And again, just to back up this quote here from JP Morgan, this came out here on a post from Bloomberg here, talking about this buy-side pressure. Now, the important thing to keep in mind here as well, to talk about how big this is. Bitcoin's current market capitalization is $356 billion. $600 billion of buy-side pressure does not mean that Bitcoin's market cap is only going to grow. If this were to happen, this really optimistic event, it wouldn't mean that Bitcoin's market cap would only grow by $600 billion. It's important to note in the last cycle, as Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market as a whole went up to around a $700 to $800 billion market cap, that there was really only a few $10 billion that made that happen. So what's going to happen when we get $600 billion of buy-side pressure? And this is just pension funds. That's not including the MicroStrategies of the world, the corporate treasurers who have billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars, on their balance sheets. This is not including, retail investors, other institutional wings, all types of different parts of the financial system that have cash on their balance sheets or other assets they're looking to get rid of and cycle into something else. This is why the multi-trillion-dollar valuation for Bitcoin is not unreasonable. For again, a Bitcoin to go to $20,000 in this case, we're pushing towards around in the matter of a Bitcoin going to 100K, this is talking about Bitcoin being slightly over a $2 trillion valuation. It's not unreasonable. It sounds crazy, but gold is actually right now is around a $12 to $13 trillion market. And if we're talking about the global equity market, just specifically U.S. equities, right? The U.S. equities are around 40, 50 trillion. Global equities, 100 trillion. Bond market, even larger than that. Specifically, U.S. Treasuries, 40 trillion, 50 trillion. I think it's completely reasonable to see this. I think we're very much on track for this to happen, guys. And Bitcoin has been proving through the performance that it's had this year post-halving that the demand is also coming to meet the change in supply. So I'm very, very excited to see this overall, guys. Now, I want to mention one quick thing. We've got a sponsored news mention here from one of our great partners, Morpheus Network. I've been a big supporter of the project since as far back as 2018. And what they basically have here today is a really exciting announcement where they're working with the Argentinian food and agriculture regulator within the country, known in this case as SENASA. And in this case, they're focusing on providing supply chain solutions for the tracking and supply chain movement of these different types of agriculture or animal goods. Now, this is a massive partnership overall, and I want to spend some time to talk about the importance and critical nature of this partnership. Morpheus has been working from a small project back in 2018 with a bold idea to something that actually can have some serious impact on the world. They've been working with large agencies across the world, mainly focusing on the tracking of food, drugs, and other critical things that need to have quality checks along the way. But in this case, they're going about using their technology and the tracking of food and animal products, in this case, going through Argentina. Now, how big of a deal is this overall? I want to go ahead and just talk a little bit about the market scale here before we dive into details. One of the key things that I think is important to note is the gross estimation of the agribusiness in Argentina. It's an over $60 billion per annual market. And if we're focusing that on a percentage basis, that's 60% of GDP. For developing economies across the world in Latin America, it tends to be that agriculture, or agribusiness in this case, is a massive sector. And for this kind of partnership, it's big news for Morpheus, as they're tracking in a lot of the imports and exports of different goods and services going through Argentina, which is still a well-developed large economy. Now, let's go ahead and dive into some of the details here. The key issue here for Sanasa is that as they're going tracking all these goods and services, the quality checks, where they're coming from, it's become a really big, difficult issue, because if you're using a dozen different systems, it's hard to keep on top of things, it's extremely expensive, and you don't have a clear story of where things came from point A to point B. Well, Sanasa in this case, working with Morpheus Network, and more specifically working with the key partnership that they're calling, I want to make sure I get the name right here. I think it's a Paladin, or I have to get the specific name here. Polaris Network. My apologies on it, guys. You guys know my strength is not with names. But with Polaris Network, in this case, in tandem with the technology of Morpheus Network, they're going through and providing a clear end-to-end story for where goods and services are coming from. So through Morpheus Network being able to provide end-to-end traceability, Morpheus Network is using blockchain technology to create a transparent and efficient platform to streamline and automate the global supply chain. They're utilizing public and permission blockchains as well as sidechains in order to take among the advantages of decentralization to provide a true, secure, and private way for goods and services to get from point A to point B without jeopardizing any type of centralized entities who have any kind of an incentive here to manipulate the process. So it's very, very exciting to see that Morpheus has been able to do something so big and land such a massive partnership here. And I recommend you guys go ahead and read through the article once it's published here. This is some breaking news for Morpheus Network. And you can also, again, as I always emphasize, not only look into these actual organizations to see how impactful and large they are, but along with that as well, take a look through Morpheus Network as a project. Again, I think above all, guys, when you talk about the use cases of blockchain technology and smart contracts, I'm very, very specific about the niche use cases that are there. Predominantly, I've always believed that it's finance as the key number one priority. The second one outside of that, though, if we're talking about things outside of financial markets, somewhere between, in this case, supply chain logistics, which is what Morpheus focuses on, and along with that as well, legal. So I think that these are the kind of few areas where we actually have some type of actual use case for blockchain. And I highly recommend you check into Morpheus Network, learn about the overall platform, the team behind it. Dan, the founder here, has been really vehement about actually taking Morpheus to large scale. He's constantly working every time I get to chat with him. But overall, guys, I highly recommend you read into the news. This is big stuff from Morpheus, and congrats to Dan and the team on it. So anyways, that's it for today's video, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching. If you can, please consider liking the video. It always means a lot to me personally, guys. And also along with that as well, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe and bell icon. As I mentioned, we've got a big announcement coming tomorrow that I really don't want you guys to miss. It's been something that's been months in the working for Digifox, and I think that if you're using a current wallet or exchange, I have a feeling you're going to want to possibly consider making the switch. All right, guys, I hope you're all having a fantastic day wherever you are, and I'll see you all in the next video. One last thing, we've also got our new altcoin video coming out on the 16th. So just coming out in less than 2 days. Hope you guys are excited for it, and we'll have it then. All right, it's finally it, guys. A little bit out of it with the water fast. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.